Last week on the podcast, we talked about the squad, and we talked about Ilhan Omar's resolution, which was in support of the BDS movement. During the week this week, I wrote a blog that discussed the outright anti-Semitism of the BDS movement and the Democrat squad members' support of that movement. There was a lot of discussion about the BDS movement, and there were some that tried to say that we were fear-mongering and called us alt-right in response to our article. I really want to dig deeper into the BDS movement this week and hopefully bring some clarity to why the BDS movement is an issue not only for Israel, but for the United States. I'm your host, Jared Dyson, and this is the Closet Conservative Podcast. Throughout the podcast and blog, we've discussed anti-Semitism at some length, and especially in response to the Democratic freshman representatives Ilhan Omar, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, and Ayanna Pressley. Omar has suggested supporting Israel is representative of dual loyalty. She issued a resolution that was in support of the BDS movement, which prompted the House to pass a non-binding resolution that addressed the BDS movement and condemning it earlier this week. The issue with this is that the resolution was just that, non-binding, and it is nothing but lip service. When pressed to create a binding resolution, the House has continued to fail to act. So what is the BDS movement that has become the hot topic of late? According to the BDS website, they claim the boycott, divestment, sanctions is a Palestinian-led movement for freedom, justice, and equality. Now, on the surface, this seems to be reasonable, but when you really dig into the information, you find that the story is full of lies. The BDS movement complains of Israel's security measures along the West Bank and Gaza area as crimes against humanity. The BDS movement claims that Israel has no right to act in this way in those areas, but it also recognizes that Israel has international authority and sovereign rights to those areas. Israel has enacted these security measures in the area in response to repeated violence from the Palestinian groups who are supporting the BDS movement. But the BDS movement didn't exactly begin as they would like to say. The true origins of the BDS movement can be traced back to 2001 and the Durban NGO Forum. In this setting, the Jews were left out of the discussions that were taking place, and Israel was labeled as a racist state. The BDS movement spawned in 2005 out of that forum and has been present ever since. The BDS argument has been made on several occasions that it's because the Palestinians do not have their own state, but this argument couldn't be further from the truth. In 1937 and in 1947, Jewish leaders agreed to a two-state solution, but it was rejected by Palestinian leaders. A two-state solution has continued to be offered, but has continually been rejected. The BDS movement calls for the ending of the colonization of Arab lands and allowing refugees to return to their homes and properties based on a UN resolution. The issue is that the occupation that the BDS movement refers to is not the 1967 occupation as it would suggest, but the actual formation of a Jewish state to begin with. For Israel to remove itself to the levels that the BDS movement suggests would place Israel in a situation geographically and politically that it could not survive. BDS continues with many of its activists stating that the end goal is the ending of the Jewish nation. Don't believe me? The founder of the BDS movement, Omar Barghouti, stated that Israel had no right to exist and that the nation should be given to the Palestinians and renamed Palestine. He has stated that the Jews were not people and that Palestinians should take action with any force necessary against Jews. He has openly called for a one-state solution, which would make the Jews the minority in the country that is given to the Palestinians and basically give them rule over the Jews. The Palestinians have never supported a Jewish nation and have made multiple threats in the past and continue to threaten an attempt to eliminate Israel from existence. Through the BDS movement, the goal is to push Israel into a situation where the national pressures cause nations and businesses to withdraw from doing business and working with Israel. The result would be that Israel becomes isolated and would in essence turn everyone against the nation of Israel, requiring it to come under Palestinian rule. Maybe you continue to say that I'm wrong, even with the statements by the founder. Other BDS advocates, such as Assad Abdul Khalil, stated the real aim of the BDS is to bring down the state of Israel, and that the destroying of the state of Israel should be stated as an unambiguous goal. Another supporter, Laura Kiswani, stated bringing down Israel will really benefit everyone in the world and everyone in society, particularly workers. So this BDS movement has spread rapidly and dramatically across the world, with events being held on college campuses in the United States to push for the boycott of Israel Organizations from Italy, the UK, Denmark, Norway, and the Netherlands have funded the BDS programs and initiatives directly. Many of these groups have direct funding linked to other terrorist organizations as well. Yet we're going to believe that they are striving for peace in this situation. Now, I know this is a lot of surface information about the BDS, but I'm hopeful it helps everyone understand why this is a big deal. Israel is our strongest and, in most instances, our only ally in the Middle East, and they've not been the aggressor in this situation. They have every right to defend their land, and they have supported the two-state solution in the past. The problem is the Palestinians. The BDS movement is nothing more than a propaganda movement against a nation of Israel in an attempt to undermine their sovereignty. The scary part is that the United States, who claims to be this strong ally of Israel, will only do lip service to condemn the BDS movement. A binding resolution, which not only speaks out against the BDS movement but seeks to block and dismantle its activities, is being blocked by the House of Representatives. This action should be moved forward to continue to show our support of our ally Israel. It's time for the U.S. House of Representatives to stop playing the pandering games and start taking action in the best interest of the United States and our allies. The House should formally call out the anti-Semitism of those in their ranks who refuse to support the non-binding agreement as well. Those freshman Democrats in the squad are nothing short of terrorists in our own government toward one of our best allies. Now, many will call out that Ayanna Pressley did not vote against the resolution, but I encourage you to read her statements about it. Pressley stated that the only reason she supported the resolution because it was non-binding and that it called for a two-state solution. If there had been anything else in the resolution, she would not have supported it. So if there would have been punishment for the BDS movement or restrictions according to the BDS movement, she would not have supported this non-binding resolution. The squad, as they like to be referred, is a group of anti-Semitic, anti-American individuals that are a disgrace to our nation. They refuse to denounce terrorism, they refuse to admit their real aspirations, and they refuse to work towards anything that accomplishes the interest of the American people. It's no wonder that Americans do not like or support these four idiots that were elected to Congress. As Americans, we can do better, and we must demand better of our representatives. We must realize the lies of groups like BDS and address their actions in trying to undermine our allies. It is absolutely scary that we are willing to let these individuals who are openly supporting hatred of the Jews, terrorism against the Jews, and the destruction of Israel get a free pass. Democrats refuse to rebuke them or address their open racism and hatred toward the Jews. But isn't this exactly what they're accusing the Republicans of? Ironic, isn't it?
This is the Closet Conservative Podcast. All material copyright The Closet Conservative. Music courtesy of Greg Shields Music. Remember to subscribe to our podcast to receive all the latest episodes. We can also be found online at closetconservative.net or on Facebook and Twitter.